Hey troops, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando from the United Kingdom, and today we're going to be reacting to why our US military base is so dangerous. This one's going to be a very good one, guys. It's by Vice News. Original video link will be in the description as always. So, before we get into this, US military bases, for one, are everywhere globally, okay? They're pretty much all over the place, and there's very good reason for that. I'm guessing we're going to find out in this video, troops. I have worked with the US military in various different parts of the globe, and yeah, they're pretty cool, guys, to say the least. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new here. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and I'll see you in the comments. Let's get after it. Here we go. Gianna Taboni, Chains of Command.
You know, if I go missing, it's because I did this.
Wait, sorry, what was that?
It's because we talked. Like, there's
You're saying if something happened to one of you guys, it's because you did this interview.
If I vanish or he vanished, we're both tracking that, why.
So these are Fort Hood soldiers.
Wow. I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No.
Soldiers have to make a joke out of it because it's so real. At Fort Hood, you're like, I made it to work and didn't get shot, raped, or freaking killed. I guess it's a good day.
That's a normal joke.
That's a normal joke.
Hang on, at Fort Hood because the area in general is dangerous, or is it because it's dangerous on the camp? That's a different question.
Fort Hood is one of the largest army bases in the country. It has more than 38,000 active duty soldiers. It's home to 3rd Corps and to 1st Cavalry Division. I mean, the people who are literally fighting ISIS. One of the other things this base is known for, especially more recently, is it's considered by many estimates to be one of the most dangerous bases in the country.
Hang on a minute, why? Why is it that Fort Hood is one of the most dangerous bases in the country? That doesn't... I guess we're going to find out, but I can't think of any logical reason why that may be. Surely if one base was potentially under threat, all of them would be.
Fort Hood has the highest rates of homicide, aggravated assault, and sexual misconduct Army-wide. And in the past 5 years, more than 160 soldiers based here have died outside of combat.
Hang on a minute. This is crazy. 160 plus soldiers have died outside of combat. I'm guessing within the vicinity of this base, or definitely linked to this base, otherwise we wouldn't be talking to it. There's something very, very strange going on here.
But the story of Fort Hood is representative of a broader problem, an insular military justice system operating independently of the civilian world, where commanders have almost complete control over prosecuting violent crime.
My sister's a human being!
What's going on?
And I want justice! And I want answers!
The problems at this base first came to national attention last year when a 20-year-old soldier named Vanessa Guillen went missing. The Army didn't thoroughly investigate and instead labeled her AWOL, implying she left the base without permission. Her body was found 2 months later. She'd been murdered by a fellow soldier.
Right, yeah. You hear stories of things. Some of the stories I've heard, obviously I'm not going to mention anyway for obvious privacy reasons and stuff like that, but this kind of thing's not popular. It's not common. All right, this isn't the normal thing that happens, guys. Like, wow, I'm actually quite shocked already, man.
Vanessa's family is still fighting for answers.
Que están encubriendo a alguien muy grande. Yo para mi justicia que me digan la verdad, que se sepa con detalles por qué pasó eso con mi hija. Y no vamos a parar hasta obtener justicia para que se puedan salvar tantos jóvenes que están escondidos, la mayoría están escondidos sufriendo.
Vanessa isn't alone. 95 soldiers were listed as AWOL at Fort Hood in 2020, including...
What went on at Fort Hood? This is crazy.
Greg Morales, whose body was found while investigators were still searching for Vanessa.
What on earth? This has really shocked me.
When violent crime is investigated, soldiers say it isn't always taken seriously. We're in a small town outside Fort Hood. We're visiting a woman who says that she was sexually assaulted while she was serving at Fort Hood. She's staying in this motel right now, and she's really just kind of living VA check to VA check. Karina was just 19 when she says she was raped at a party after her drink was spiked.
I woke up the next morning and I was in his bed and I personally didn't know what happened. When I got to PT in the morning, my partner next to me said, hey, you know you got bruises all over your neck, your body, everything. God. And so I told the NCO, I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I went, and that's when they confirmed I was raped.
Wow. So she's been drugged, so she didn't remember it, and then obviously confirmed that this has happened. This is outrageous, guys. I can't believe that we're... I thought this video title, again, I don't watch any of these beforehand, guys. You can know that now by my reaction. I thought when it said, why are US military bases so dangerous, it would have been, you know, because of their operational capability abroad. Not why they're so dangerous in the US, because there's a massive problem with crimes on campus such. This is really shocking, troops. I wasn't expecting this at all.
After that, they actually had a counselor come in and talk to you and let you know, hey, can you tell your story? And I did, and no one did anything about it.
So nobody followed up with you?
No one. And it kind of just felt me like, okay, did whatever I say go through one ear out the other? Because that's how I felt.
Yeah, it did, pretty much. It went in one ear and out the other.
Karina says she reported her assault up the chain of command. They sent her to SHARP, the Sexual Misconduct Prevention Program, who said they'd report it to CID, the Army's Criminal Investigative Division. But she says nobody was held accountable. Stories...
Right, surely they get DNA swabs. I know how investigation works, guys. I worked in it for a while. All right, criminal investigation as well. There's various basic things that anyone with a little bit of IQ would definitely go, yeah, you should do this, i.e., let's take DNA swabs and samples for obvious reasons, okay? Especially in a sexual assault situation. So, yeah, there's a lot of failing straight away, which tells me that maybe they're trying to protect something.
Like this continue to surface. Last year, the Army did something unprecedented. They brought in an outsider, a former FBI investigator named Chris Swecker, to try to understand how this keeps happening. When you looked at the investigative division, Criminal Investigative Division, CID, were there any agents who you felt were experienced enough to conduct complex homicide or sexual assault investigations?
There were only a couple, and there may have been as low as only one. At one point, 90% of the enlisted CID agents had less than 2 years' experience. And then they had warrant officers, I think somewhere around, at some point, 40 or 50% of them were probationary or apprentice. So that meant that they weren't even credentialed to go out by themselves and do interviews.
In December, Swecker and his team published their findings in an extensive report. The most concerning thing they found dealt with military prosecutors, or JAGs, who were sometimes pressured by commanders to sideline solid criminal cases.
What we saw was a pretty close relationship between...
So basically what they're saying is chain of command had the capacity and power to sweep these problems under the rug, and that's exactly what happened. Not good enough.
Between military JAG advisors and the commanding officers. So when victims came in, or these cases came in, there seemed to be a deference towards the subject and disposing of the case as quickly as possible.
How do you dispose of a case?
In the military system, there are what I call off-ramps. You can take a set of facts in a case and you can say there's no prosecution here, and it stops here. That's an opinion that they render early in the process. Second part of it is they can...
Key word there, an opinion, all right? And that's where it should stop. Opinions are something in criminal cases, and obviously I know quite a bit about this, is you can't go off an opinion, just like you couldn't go off hearsay for evidence. So my opinion is there's nothing happened. Well, actually, we need to delve deeper. That's what the investigation process does, to see if there's actually anything established further. That means we need to carry on with the investigation. You don't just say, I feel or I think. No, we don't use I feel or I think in interviews and stuff like that. We need solid facts and evidence. Otherwise, we carry on until we find them. Crazy this.
Decide that they're going to go administrative instead of court-martial. Court-martial's the military equivalent of a trial. So what we saw was a lot of these cases took the off-ramp before they got to court-martial. And then if they did get to court-martial, more often than not, the cases were lost.
It just seems like at every stage, there are people who are in positions of power who are just tossing cases.
No cases, no problems.
The problems that Swecker identified don't just happen at Fort Hood. Service members have been labeled AWOL under suspicious circumstances on other bases. A number of families say their children's deaths weren't properly investigated. And
family convinced Longmont Marine's death was not suicide.
Despite a years-long campaign to root out sexual violence, the number of reported assaults has only continued to rise. Military-wide, the conviction
2010 to 2019, we have spiked from just over 3,000 number of sexual assault reports to nearly 8,000. In 9 years, this data is shown.
Rate is less than 5%. And this Marine says after the sergeant who assaulted her confessed, the case was dropped.
This is exactly why fucking females in the military fucking kill themselves. This is exactly why nobody fucking takes us seriously.
While Swecker uncovered these areas of corruption, we tracked down a military insider who's experienced it himself. We're in Richmond, Virginia to meet up with Ben Belials.
Honestly, guys, I'm shocked, man.
He's a retired Air Force JAG who prosecuted cases for about 10 years. He's also represented service members in every branch of the military. And today, for the first time, he's blowing the whistle on what he says is a military-wide problem that allows for cover-ups.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Did you ever have an experience where, you felt you had a strong case, you wanted to prosecute it, and the commander said no?
Oh, absolutely.
Whoa, he could be in trouble for even admitting that, That's one thing that this guy probably knows too well, is it's pretty dangerous to go up against the authorities, the powers that be, in this case, the US military. I'm pretty saddened to do this video, this reaction. It wasn't what I was expecting, but we're going to crack on with it anyway. You know me, I've got nothing but good things to say about the US military in general, but this is put a real dampener on things, actually.
Often these cases were off-ramped into other resolutions or just went away and didn't even discuss it with me, really.
Did you ever come across cases of violent crime where the perpetrator wasn't prosecuted and then their name came up later as having reoffended?
Absolutely. I'm aware of hundreds of cases like that.
That's insane.
Victims of violent crime and their families say, this is a system in all branches of the military that allows for widespread cover-up. Do you feel that that's a fair characterization?
The system as it exists today allows for cases to be either covered up, not fully investigated, and made to go away.
So for a family and there are a number of families who dispute the cause of their child's death, the original investigation was poor, the other information is classified, where do they go?
I don't know.
Imagine those family members, they're probably tearing themselves up right now over this.
I don't know.
The reports we have heard should disturb everyone.
I am tired of excuses. I am tired of the statement I get over and over from the chain of command. We got this, man. We got this. You don't have it. You're failing us.
A bipartisan group of senators led by Kirsten Gillibrand and Ted Cruz have been fighting for years to fundamentally change the military justice system by allowing independent, trained military prosecutors to decide which serious crimes to prosecute.
Yes.
They're now introducing a new bill that would do this, effectively taking the prosecution of violent crime out of the chain of command.
One thing I want to know, though, is if they do that, does that mean historic cases which were swept under the carpet are now going to be investigated, leading to obvious, corrections in the processes that happened previously, leading to convictions? That's the thing. Because if that is the case, if it goes back, say, 10 years, how many incidents are we going to find in this case that were actually swept under the carpet that shouldn't have been? And, hundreds and hundreds of people potentially could get imprisoned over this, people in, massive command positions as well. That's the scary bit. And this video is relatively recent, I think, based off information between 2010 to 2020-ish. So that's 10 years worth of potential cover-ups, guys. This is a crazy video, I'm not going to lie.
But the military's top brass is resistant to this reform. During our
Well, yeah, the top brass would be. The top brass definitely would be.
Investigation, the Army granted us an interview with the man tasked with turning around Fort Hood, Major General John Richardson. I've heard from experts, including veterans, who have said the future of the U.S. Army really hinges on what you're able to accomplish here. Would you agree?
We've had a trust deficit with our soldiers, and that's really what we're focused on here at Fort Hood, is rebuilding that trust with our soldiers, their families, and by extension, the American people.
Bipartisan congressional leaders, as you know, have been asking for the power to be taken out of the chain of command, and they really feel like independent investigators, prosecutors should really be prosecuting crimes within the military. What is the pushback from the military?
The chain of command is central to good order and discipline in a military organization. And so we entrust the commanders at every level to enforce good order and discipline. And once you take that away from the commander and put it into the hands of an outside agency, you've already are demonstrating a lack of trust from the American people to the military.
I think a lot of people would.
One thing I will say is what he's saying is right, but you know, this is how it was explained to me, how I'll explain it to you guys. Officers at that level are effectively politicians in uniform. You know, that just they say what you need to hear when you need to hear it. So yes, sounds good, and part of that is what he's saying is right in terms of the balance of trust between the command structure of the soldiers and keeping third parties out of it in order to keep that trust maintained. But the problem here is the trust has already been diminished and the process actually doesn't work at all. So this is where the outside agency thing needs to come in to reform what's happened and definitely investigate the crimes that's ongoing, because people are dying on camps in the United States military. This shouldn't be happening, guys. This is not a one-off thing. This has been happening over 10 years in this area specifically, in that camp specifically. So this is a big, big problem.
I would say the chain of command commanders have proven that they cannot do this, that they cannot self-police their own soldiers. And I guess at what point do they no longer earn that privilege to be able to self-police?
It really comes down to commanders demonstrating through their actions that they will take action and then hold other leaders accountable. Some have some bad habits but can change, and then there'll be some that don't change, and they will have to go because they'll be cancerous.
In response to the allegations in this story, the Army said they encourage all soldiers to voice their safety concerns, that they voluntarily publish the results of punishment for sex crimes, and monitor the status of active cases. 2 decades of combat and the PTSD that comes with it will make this job harder. This is a generation of leaders that's been trained to go to war, not prioritize the health and safety of its soldiers. After our interview, the Army did fire or suspend 14 service members. They've promised to investigate missing persons cases, no longer labeling them AWOL, and even canceled training rotations, showing how they'll prioritize the well-being of their soldiers. But so far, lower-ranking soldiers are skeptical. Since Vanessa Guillen's death, there have been reforms that have been introduced. Are they working?
There's half measures and then there's just hollow gestures, and that's often what happens is people are so preoccupied with trying to make the program look good that they don't actually worry about how to make the program run properly.
So you're calling bullshit on these reforms?
All of it. I've seen it all before. A soldier gets raped, have a sharp class. Okay, we had a sharp class, rape doesn't exist anymore, goodbye.
Box checked, moving on.
All the
I can understand that. And I'm not talking about similar cases like this in the British military, just little things when it comes to change. They'll do the same thing. You'll get a chat. You'll all get collectively collated into a room and said, look, this is how we've improved something. And guess what, guys? There's nothing you can do about it or say about it. Let's not talk about it again and crack on, basically. So, yeah, I understand this.
leaders in the Army have been leaders for a long time. They were around for the surge in Iraq and Afghanistan, and their main priority was to, fight and win the wars. But it's a different war now, and those are the people who are still in charge.
So, what I've instantly kind of thought about that, what do I make of it? Why are US military bases so dangerous? Well, in the grand scheme of things, one crime like that is too many. So let's get that straight. But in the grand scheme of things, how big the actual United States military is, those numbers are really small, relatively speaking. And again, I will say, those crimes are shameful. Not one of them should have happened. But what normally happens, and from what I've seen, if you have such things happen, and they're pushed under the carpet, and the people in the power positions have the ability to stop these things from happening, and they are pushing them under the carpet. It tells me that there's a lot of individuals possibly committing these crimes from those echelons of that rank structure. That's what you normally see. You don't see them protecting the guys at the very bottom. The fact that people are getting away with it tells me that the same people that are making the decisions are the same ones probably committing the crimes. That's what I'll leave this video with, guys. What do you think with that final statement? Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please decide if you want to become a member or not. You can do that by pressing the join button. It really does help me out. It helps me create videos each and every month, guys, okay? But other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, troops. Peace.